Welcome back to Giants Training Camp Live. Giants going through their preseason and training camp paces. We're joined by the head coach of the Giants, Pat Shurmur. And Coach, all right, you're about a week into this. How's the attention span been from the team?
I think the team's been terrific, Bob. I think the first week was good. I kind of marked the weeks by after the day off. So we had the day off yesterday. We're really starting our second week of training, which will involve 4 padded practices here. And so it's been very competitive, but they've trained smart, and I feel like we've made some progress.
With the new rules that you and every other coach has to deal with, right. You want to be a physical football team. You want to establish that. Right. The rules don't afford itself to necessarily do that. How do you do it?
Well, I'm a fan of having rules, and at least we're all dealing with the same thing. The reality of it is now you have a walkthrough and you have a practice, and we just have to be smart. I think sometimes too much is worse than not enough, and so we've got to go through the physical part of it. Our guys embrace that, and you just got to be smart about how you do it. Try to get as much pounding in as you can, but still hopefully not deal with injuries.
When you talk about, getting that physicality and having guys go at it, how much do you talk to them beforehand of what your expectation is and what's accepted and what's not accepted?
We continually, the conversation is to be smart. Unfortunately, we have to practice a lot without pads on, but when we have pads on, it's super important that, this game's about the ball, and it's about negotiating the ground, and it's about man whip a man. So when we're going against one another, when I say negotiate the ground, what I'm saying is we are staying off the ground. That's where typically injuries occur. So you want to get that surge, you want to get that force, you want to get that contact, but I think it's very important that our guys do a good job of staying up.
Offensive line, obviously it's something that takes a lot of continuity, guys staying together, working together. From what you've seen in a week with a couple of padded practices that you've had, how is that gel coming together?
I think they're getting better each day, and I say that because it's important they block their own guy, but it's even more important that they work in unison. And now you've had multiple practices where Nate Solder and Will Hernandez are working well together. On the other side you see Pat and you see Eric working together, and the connection with the center. And so it just gets smoother. And fortunately, by the way we function, we pressure a lot on defense, at least in these drills. And so you have to go through the gymnastics of picking up all those pressures, which guys have to work together. And I think they've done a good job.
One of the other areas in the National Football League when you watch the first couple weeks of the season, missed tackles. That's got to be maybe the hardest thing to replicate in training camp, the art of tackling, because the live periods are few and far between.
You're exactly right. Tackling that's a conversation we all have all the time. Not only how you tackle, but the fact that you can't practice it live. And that's really where the preseason games come in. That's where you see tackling to the ground. That's where you see low blocks, really skills and things that you do where guys get on the ground. And so that's the reality of it, and we just got to get what we can out of the preseason games.
I want to ask you about Eli Apple. Obviously, a lot of promises rookie year. Last year was kind of a wash year for him. He gets a clean slate. What have you seen in him as you've gotten to work with him that's impressed you so far?
Well, he's extremely competitive, and he's going against your receivers that, they're good players. And so you see them out there competing, but they take care of one another. And I see a real professional approach from Eli. And then behind the scenes, in the meetings, he's very engaged, and he's functioning in the building like a pro. And that's what you want.
When you take a look at the safety position, obviously Landon Collins is coming off the injury. There's that search for who's going to play next to him. Guys have had experience that are there. How much can you learn from the practices, and how much will what happens in preseason games dictate things?
Well, we learn a lot in practice. Obviously, the final evaluation is always the games. But that's why the 11-on-11 drills are very important, where it's kind of an uncontrolled setting, where they've got to make calls, they've got to get the defense lined up properly, and then when you start throwing the ball down the field and hopefully they get their hand on the ball, they cover their guys well, and then position themselves to make tackles when it's their time.
Final question. You've been a head coach before in this league, but you've got a new staff, year number 1. The mechanics of all of it, is it come together the way you would have expected?
Well, I think we're working on it daily. I think I've got an outstanding coaching staff. They're career coaches. They're trying to get better every day. They communicate well amongst themselves and then obviously with the players, which is important. And we're constantly tweaking this thing as we go. So I like the way they're communicating. I like the way they're working. I like, the direction our team is going. So we'll see soon.
Coach, we appreciate a couple minutes.
All right, Bob. Thanks, man.
That's New York Giants head coach Pat Shurmur. When we come back on the program, Paul Dottino takes a closer look at the Giants' battle at the center position as we continue with Giants Training Camp Live here on MSG.